after I had turned down the tour and I was going through a really hard time, or the record deal, the first one. I went through a really hard time, and one of the dancers was like, "If you uh, go back to Michigan," because I was in LA at the time, she said, "You have to be willing to change for the good. Like you have to be willing to change inside and out as a person because your actions are not lining up with what you want."
Hey, Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
It's
Thanks
a
for having
pleasure to have you here on the Start of Somewhere podcast. How's your day going so far?
it's going good. How's yours?
Megan, I haven't left the house in weeks. I feel like a broken record because every episode being in this quarantine, I'm still saying, like, I haven't left the house in weeks. But today I actually got out. I took an hour drive in one direction and an hour drive back just to
I
get
can
out.
do the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I had to get out. I had to. It's been crazy. So we're still in this quarantine, but it looks like the situation might be improving soon. So
Yeah, it
maybe
seems like it's probably going to flip around, which is very necessary at this point. So,
I know it's unfortunate, but hopefully we'll get back to scheduled programming soon. But it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Megan. I cannot wait to share your story with the listeners. You've done some amazing, amazing things. I mean, reading your bio, absolutely blown away. But I
thanks.
want to let you share with everybody a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, yeah. So, I came from parents who were born in Baghdad, and growing up was a little interesting because I'm an artist. I'm a songwriter and singer, and I came up as a musician, which was a little bit different for a female Iraqi girl. It was just it was interesting. So I was basically born and bred into the entertainment industry. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. I dropped out of school when I was 16 to pursue dancing full time and on a professional level. And I had been in music since I was about 9, but I wasn't actively pursuing that. My goal was to just become bigger as a dancer. But then when I was on tour with Charlie Wilson, I was offered my first record deal, which was sort of like a calling, I guess you could say, from a higher power to lead me into a different direction. So I've been doing music ever since.
Wow. So you've been in the entertainment industry pretty much your whole life, you said.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
anything else.
do you remember when you were a kid, like, were you dancing all the time? Like, is that just something that you love doing?
I would be in like the living room dancing to the loudest music, and my brother would be like cussing me out from the other room, telling me like turn off the music and to shut up. And yeah, I mean, I'd be dancing around the kitchen when I was cooking. I'd go straight to dance right after school for like 8 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, class after class after class after class. Even in school, I would miss school a lot and I would just show up for like choir and dance and musical theater. And then I'd leave.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of
Yeah.
dance were you doing at that time?
So I was motivated mostly by hip hop because that's where my strong suit was. But I was very advanced in hip hop and not advanced in tap and jazz and ballet. So I wanted to compete. So in order to be on the competition team, tap, jazz, and ballet were requirements to do hip hop. Hip hop was like an extra thing that you can't just do hip hop. You have to have the foundation in. So so originally it started with hip hop, but I fell in love with jazz and I fell in love with ballet, and so that was at that time. But now I do everything and I love all of it. But I'd say now I do probably like a Latin fusion, sort of completely different from everything I was growing up doing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible. So for the record, like, I cannot dance. I wouldn't even attempt to dance. I'd probably break my neck or embarrass myself. But dancing is like the hottest thing right now since sliced
You
bread,
can like
especially.
learn on TikTok now.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, TikTok has paved a new way for dancers.
For
Like,
dancers,
it's
I know.
unbelievable. How do
We
you
didn't
feel
have
about
like
that?
All right. So I think it's cool. I mean, obviously anything that's the dancers in all of entertainment, dancers were always the biggest underdogs. We never got as paid as much as musicians. We never got as paid much as actors. We were always like we're the background talent, you know what I mean? But we worked so hard and we were the most passionate, I feel, out of all of the other forms of art. And maybe I'm biased because that's just I'm more of a dancer than anything. But now that I see it on TikTok, I'm like, this is kind of cool. But also then it's sort of annoying because like I grew up blood, sweat, and tears, like my feet would be bleeding and like everything, you know what I mean? And then like there's some people coming out with no formal training who are like, oh, I'm a dancer, and it's like you learned an 8 count on TikTok. What do you mean?
I can imagine though. I would imagine that if I was dancing since a kid and put in the work that you put in, it would be frustrating to see.
It's like frustrating
Yeah.
and it's like I love it, but I hate it.
Uh huh.
But you know, even on Instagram, like Instagram is huge for like all the places in LA. Like Millennium Dance Complex is one of the biggest studios. Broadway Dance Center, I trained there. Edge Performing Arts Center, where all the big choreographers are. They've got like all these dance classes that they put on their Instagram. Now these dancers have millions of followers now. We weren't celebrities back then. It's not how it worked. So now it's like I don't even want to go into a class because I have to be full hair and makeup, and I'm like, I just want to go in and dance. I don't want to have to worry about is this going to look good on camera? It's sort of like the intention has changed,
Right.
and for me, it's like that kind of kills the art.
Right. Right. No, I completely understand where you're coming from. Do you feel do you feel like dancers, like background dancers, like are getting more attention nowadays with social media, or no?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, and it's well deserved. Yeah, you know, if a dancer dances for a celebrity, they're considered a celebrity.
Yeah. Which is very true. Like,
It is.
there's a girl on TikTok named Charlie D'Amelio or something like that.
Mm.
And she does like these little dances. I mean, I don't know her experience, but she has like 35 million followers.
Is she really?
She has like six. She could put up a video, and in one day, she'll get like 6 to 8 million views of her
Wow.
doing like a 30-second bop. Like, I mean, look, I'm not hating, okay? I'm not hating, but her dances her dances don't really have too much skill going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it has to be dumbed down for the audience too. Because if you want something to go viral and you want everyone to replicate it, you can't be out here doing like dance moves that no one's going to be able to do. Like I'm not going to go and do like a some huge jump in the air with my within a split where my, knees are touching my ears. No one's going to be able to
Yeah.
do that. It's never
Uh-huh.
going to go viral.
Yeah, and now like the songs, Drake just came out with a new song which is like a dance. I don't know if you've heard that one yet. It's like right foot left, left foot right. It's like some like
Is it
little
really?
simple elementary jingle, but it's all over the radio right now. And yeah, I mean,
Seems like yeah, that's what.
there's definitely a lot of attention on dancing right now. But you've been in the game for so long, and you shared the stage with some pretty big names. A few of those are Big Sean, Ti, Mariah Carey, Goo Goo Dolls. Tell us about that. How did you make that happen?
Um, I wish I could answer that. I don't know. I always had the mindset since I was a kid that that's all I was ever gonna do. Like when I was 5, I knew that that was all I was ever gonna do, and that's all I ever did. And then I mean, I literally dropped out of school to pay for dance lessons to be a professional and work 2 jobs in the meantime.
Right.
Um, I mean, I obviously auditioned, and that's where that came from. But you can go to a million auditions and never book, and I don't think that that has anything to do with it. I think it's more about like the mindset. And for me, like I don't know what it's like to grow up not knowing what you're gonna do with your life. I have
Mm,
no, I can't relate. Like I don't know what it's like to be searching for your purpose. Like I knew it since I was born. So I think like there's in the industry and in anything in life, like if you know you're gonna do something, it's like you know it, like you know you have hands. That was what it was for me. Of course, I'm a professional dancer. Even before I was one, I knew that like I knew I could breathe air.
yeah.
So it's sort of like beyond anything that I could say it was a doingness. It was more of like a knowingness for me.
That's
Does that make
awesome.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What would you tell somebody that doesn't know what they want to do? Like they don't have that intuition or they haven't been focused on something their whole life.
To be honest, I think everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. It's whether or not they're aware of it. And I think that if a person isn't aware of what their purpose is, you have to check your surroundings. Like, what do you like to do? Is there anyone around you that's discouraging that? Is there anyone around you that wouldn't approve of that? Because usually it always comes from your surroundings. I feel like a person knows themselves very well. The only time that they feel lost or feel like they don't know themselves is when people in their surroundings are persuading them to think otherwise.
Mm,
So I would just say, be careful of the energy you surround yourself with, and, look at what makes you light up. Like, if you
right.
think about, if you close your eyes and you think about the one thing that's going to make you like so happy, what is it? And you go for that, you know?
No, absolutely. I totally agree. In fact, just yesterday, I had a conversation with my fiance, and we were talking about certain people in your life that are just not adding value,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to support. Like
Hmm.
being an entertainer, I'm sure that you've went through this where people you expected to support you didn't show up for you. I don't know if that's you, maybe not, but I can definitely relate to that. And I know a lot of people can, where it's like the people that are in your circle should be clapping for you, but so many times they don't clap
Yeah.
until you get to that level and then they want to clap. Now they want to know you. Now they want to be there right next to you and saying, "Oh, that's my friend." But like,
Yeah.
where were you supporting me when I was coming up, you know?
Yeah. And it is like that. And I think that that comes from other people's insecurities. Like, if you have a big goal or a big dream of something and you've got this friend who's really insecure and doesn't feel like they'd be able to do it, or
Mm,
feels like if they were going to support you they'd be embarrassing themselves because how dare them believe in something so big. I feel like it all comes from an insecurity. And also, like, it's not even just about clapping. I have so many friends who, like, if I need something, they're gonna do it. Like, they're, oh, who do you need? Oh, I can email so and so for you. Let me introduce you to that person. Oh, this person might be good to know. They might be able to help you out with that.
mm,
People that are actually doing things to forward your mission. Because I have a lot of people clapping in my face and whispering behind closed doors,
mm.
and I don't feel like I need applause. I need more than applause.
Absolutely. So you have a pretty supportive community,
Yeah.
that's there for you when you need them. How important is that to your success?
Well, I don't mean to sound arrogant. It's not very important because I would do it myself anyways. But it helps. And it's nice to know, like, it's something to be grateful for. Like, I do have great people around me that I know would have my back, whether they're in music or whether they're in, my best friend, she, does property real estate. Like, she's amazing. Megan, you should call this person. She's just so there.
Mm.
So not everybody that I have in my circle is like directly in entertainment. In fact, most of them are not. But they definitely have my back, and I love that. I'm grateful for it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
That's
having
awesome.
good
Having
people
good
is, one of the most important things, and it's tough for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially
Yeah.
like being in the business for like the last 7 years myself. When you're an entrepreneur and you're not in like a work environment where you're showing up to an office or you're working in a restaurant or something like that, it's tough to meet people sometimes.
Oh, of course.
Especially like when you're our age. Like, what do you really like? You're not going to school. You're not showing up to work, so it's tough to meet people. And networking is so important, right? Like showing up to networking events. Like, what would be your recommendations for like getting out there and connecting with new people?
Well, the internet, really. I mean, that's how I do it with music. Like, all the people that I work with, I've never met, and they're in different countries. And I feel like I've known them for a million years and they're like my best friends as far as work is concerned. I'd say, get out there and in the internet. And I mean, if you're in Jersey, obviously when the quarantine passes over, you can go to different networking events and do things like that in New York. Like, why not? You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a big believer that your network is equal to your net worth, and it's who you know. Especially
Yeah.
like I come from the real estate industry, so a lot of times like it's who you know and being able to connect those dots and those puzzle pieces to getting to where you want to be.
For sure.
You
I
know,
agree.
and that's just like I'm sure the entertainment industry is like that as well, where if you know the right person, I mean, you can get your foot in the door. Of course, you're putting in your hard work and you're talented, but you know it helps when you know people, right?
Yeah, it's a puzzle for sure.
Yeah. So, I want to backstep here and talk about like your come up. So you dropped out of school at 16, which is an extremely bold move, right? But like you
Yeah.
said, you knew what you wanted to do. So
Yeah.
you were certain. You had that certainty. Like, how
Yeah.
certain were you that you were going to succeed as an entertainer?
Like I knew that the sky was blue.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And what did that feel like? Was it just like, this is what I'm gonna do? There's no other option. Like, were you thinking like, well, what if this doesn't work out for me, or not at all?
Never. I don't know. I've never had that thought. I mean, I've always just been so excited for the future,
Mm,
knowing that the future is there and that there was, it was absolutely going to happen. So,
yeah,
I mean, music has definitely been a lot harder than dancing for sure. There's been more discouragements with that. But I never, I don't know. I never was like, what if it's like, what do you mean? What if it doesn't like,
you never
I
doubted
don't even
yourself.
know how to, yeah, like, I don't
Yeah,
even know. I can't even like think with
yeah,
that.
that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Was your family supportive of you dropping out of school at 16? And
I mean, it was, I think everyone saw it coming, to be honest, because I was barely ever in school. And then when I was, it'd be like to go to dance. And I think my mom stopped badgering me after a few years because she just knew that that's just not what I was doing.
right,
Um, they weren't they were supportive of me dancing, but I was also younger, so you're 16, 17, your parents aren't thinking, oh my God, what is she going to do with her life? At least mine weren't. And I was already doing huge things at 16. I danced for Mariah at 16.
mm,
So by 19, I was on like a world tour. By 20, I was at the Grammys. I was dancing for the NBA at 23. So I already had established a career for myself. So they were supportive of that because I was succeeding. Why wouldn't they support success? I
right.
think that if I would have struggled up until like being 26, 27, or 28, like some people do, it may have been a different story where they would have been like, well, what are you doing?
Right.
But thank God, I mean, that just wasn't my path. So,
Wow. So dancing for Mariah Carey at 16 years old. Did you attend
yeah,
public school at the time? Like
yeah.
was, I mean that must be huge, right? Like the girl we go to school with dancing for Mariah Carey. Like that's big.
I don't even think anyone knew at the time because I was never there.
Really? Ah,
I mean,
okay.
the girls in my dance studio knew because there was another girl and one of the male dancers that also booked the gig. So we did it together. But I was the youngest of the whole dance company that was doing it. And it was honestly because a lot of the other girls just didn't even want to audition. Like everyone was very talented in the company, in the dance company. But I think like, they didn't want to audition or they may have been afraid of certain things. I don't know I was never like that. I was like, are you kidding me? There's an audition. I'm going.
Yeah. Now was
Yeah.
was the audition local in
Yeah.
your city?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was local. It was for the Thanksgiving halftime show.
Okay.
So they were casting dancers from Detroit because that's where she was performing. So it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
that's super cool. I'm curious, was that a paid gig or was it something you did for free?
Oh, that was a free gig.
A free gig. So, and I think that's an important topic because a lot of people that like you see what people are doing now as entertainers, they're getting, paid, some of them very generously, but it wasn't always like that. Like a lot of entertainers start out whether you're like a streamer or you're doing a podcast or you're a YouTuber and you're not doing it to get paid, you're doing it because you enjoy doing it, and eventually down the line it eventually pays. So you were willing to just put yourself out there, paid or not, and just get the exposure.
I mean, 16 dancing for Mariah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
anyone would.
Yeah.
And especially now, like nowadays, you're less likely to get paid than you were back then.
Mm.
It just is the way that it is.
Right.
Like I don't know, the industry has changed, whereas I think that the reason why that gig was unpaid was because there were a lot of dancers cast because we're filling up a football field, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the deal was back then with budget and whatnot. But my view, I didn't even care. I mean, I was 16. My parents had money. I didn't need the money. I wasn't like starving,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing it for that. It was my first gig, and that's just what I did.
Yeah. So you auditioned, you got the gig,
Mhm.
you did it, which is
Yeah.
awesome. I'm sure you'll never forget that for the rest of
No.
your life. And then you kept going, right? You kept building that forward momentum, and you said a few years later you were actually at the Grammys.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
after Mariah, the next year I did the same gig, which was Lions Thanksgiving halftime show with the Goo Goo Dolls.
Okay.
And then after that, I went with the American Dance Company to compete for the World Cup in Spain. And the American Dance Company that I was with, we took second place. So
Wow.
after that, I was with a local dance company. I was like 19 maybe, and I landed a gig dancing for Charlie Wilson, which was as a permanent dancer for him. And we performed at the 2010 Grammy Awards pre-telecast, and all
Wow.
that.
What was that? What was that like? Right. I mean, how old were you at the time? Were you said 21?
I was 20. I
20.
would just turned 20. I was 19 turning 20, or I had just turned 20 because the Grammy Awards are around my birthday there in
So
February.
20 years old at the Grammys. Like, what was that like? That must have been insane.
It was like, actually, now that you say that, it was my 20th birthday. That was the like, oh my God, that was the best experience of my life.
Yeah.
Like you walk in and you see these chairs, and it's like a chair is reserved for David Guetta, and back then Imogen Heap was big, and like just Taylor Swift's chairs right there, and I'm just like sitting here like I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know what I was in for.
That must have been just I can't even imagine. I mean, that's huge. And you've also done some things with Big Sean and Ti as well. Was that
Yeah,
after the Grammys or?
yeah. So after the Grammys, I continued dancing for Charlie, and then I started dancing for the NBA after I left the tour. And then when I was dancing for the NBA, a girl on the team was like, "Hey, there's a music video that they're casting for." I didn't even know it was Big Sean. I was like, "All right, bet." And I just sent in an email to a local agency, and I got chosen out of like 200 some girls, and did the Guap Big Sean music video, which was filmed here, and then the Ti music video was called Dope, and that was shot in Los Angeles at One Oak.
Oh wow! So a little bit of traveling, right, all over the place. So you've
No,
definitely
you.
seen your fair share. Uh, you're from Detroit though. So I haven't actually been to Detroit like ever. But I
Never
hear
been.
there's a lot of stuff happening up in Detroit. A lot of like it's coming to life, like the downtown district. Is that true?
Compared to where it was, yeah. But I think that if you're coming from a place like Jersey or New York, you'd get here and be like, what do people do here? But
Yeah.
for natives where we've seen the come up, then yeah, it's like kind of exciting for us. Obviously, I hope that, the economy hasn't crashed to a point where we're going to be screwed when everything goes back to normal when the quarantine is over. Because Detroit has worked very hard to be where it's at. It still needs a lot of work, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So most entertainers, like from my perspective, end up like moving to LA to like further their career. Has that like crossed your mind? Have you ever thought about doing that or?
I
Do you,
lived in LA for 10 years.
oh, so you have lived. Okay, so you have lived in LA. Yeah, I feel like everyone in entertainment just on it by default. Like, yep, moving to LA.
I went back and forth. When I was dancing for Charlie, I did move to LA. Then I came back. Then I moved back. Then I came back. Then I moved to New York. I trained at the Broadway Dance Center. Then I came back. Then I moved to Spain. I had a project in Ibiza. I've lived everywhere, but I always go back and forth to LA. Like I was just there. I left in November again. But to be honest, like I don't know. All my success that I've ever gotten has been literally out of Detroit.
Mm.
Like whenever I get an opportunity, for some reason, I'm in Detroit. Whether I auditioned here or someone called me and I was here. But every time I'm in LA, it's like this rat race, and I just feel like I'm getting nowhere, and I'm exhausted, and it's hot and it's dirty. I'm over it.
So I've been to LA once, and it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. Honestly.
Yeah, not what anyone thinks.
Yeah, it's not like on TV. Like, especially if you've never been there, you land at LAX, and it's like kind of in like a sketchy area. It's like kind of
Yeah,
like dingy a
yeah.
little bit. And then I went to Hollywood Boulevard, And
Oh God.
I don't think I've ever seen more crackheads in my life and just weirdos just roaming the street. I'm like, wait, like they let this type of stuff happen here on Hollywood Boulevard. Like, what the hell?
Oh yeah, Hollywood is not the place to be if you're in LA,
Yeah,
which sucks
it's
because as a tourist, that's the first place you think to go.
exactly. That's what I was
But
so
that's not
excited.
where
And
it's
I got there and I
at.
was like, whoa, like, all right, there's a couple of stars in the sidewalk, but other than that, I don't know. In and Out Burger, though, I had to hit that up.
It's the best. I recently went vegetarian, so I can't have it anymore, but it's so good.
Yeah, vegetarian. That's interesting. How you liking
Yeah.
it so far?
I've been doing it for a year. It's actually I'm pescatarian, which means I still eat fish.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I really love it, but like don't get me wrong, if I saw an In-N-Out burger, I definitely want one.
So I did the vegetarian thing, and I did vegan for like 3 months, and then I couldn't handle it anymore. So I
Really?
went
After 3 months?
vegetarian. Yeah, the vegan's too strict for me. Like
It is very.
it's way too strict. But vegetarian, I enjoyed it honestly. Like there's so many non-meat options, and then like if you go to the grocery store, they make those like chicken, but it's not chicken.
Out of tofu.
Yeah, like tofu or soy or stuff like that. I mean, even like Burger King makes a vegetarian hamburger
Yeah.
or whatever, a veggie
Yeah,
burger.
they do now. Isn't that
Yeah.
wild? All the fast food restaurants,
Hey, it tastes
they're
good to me.
beyond meat patties.
Yeah. Plus, you can have pizza, right?
Yeah.
I'm cool with being vegetarian. What was your reasoning for switching up?
I wanted to try it, and one day I was watching Chopped on the Food Network, and they were doing an episode where it was all vegetarian, and I was just so inspired. I was like, "Oh my God, that looks so good!" And I'd been wanting to try it for a while, so I was like, "I'm just gonna give this a go." And
Yeah.
at first, like the first 3 days was really hard. I was like, "Oh my God," I felt like I was gonna fall over. Then I was like, "I'm gonna eat fish," so I did, and I've been doing that ever since, and
Yeah.
I've been doing really well with it. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're incorporating fish into the diet, so you definitely have more variety.
for
Um,
sure.
One thing I learned on vegetarian was like, for me at least, I was so carb heavy because it's
Yeah,
like you're right,
you gotta be
pasta, French
careful.
fries. It's like, oh, it's vegetarian,
Yeah,
but you know,
yeah. But you got to get the veggie part in.
yeah, right, absolutely. So you were doing all these big dancing gigs, right? And obviously now you're a songwriter and a singer. You're focused more on like the music aspect of the entertainment industry. So what led to that transition?
Um, I was when I was touring with Charlie. I was working with his music director, who was my producer, and I was like, I just want to get in the studio, and I was just planning on doing it for fun. So I got in the studio, and 3 songs later, I had a record deal. So I was
Wow.
like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was not planned.
Wait. What, 3 songs into you being in the studio, you signed
Yes.
a record deal?
I didn't end up signing it, but it was a very huge opportunity, and I was offered a record deal. Yeah.
Wow. How did that come about? Like, were you putting your music online? People were.
No one had heard it, literally. I was with the producer, and the producer was like, "We're showing this to Charlie's manager," and we did, and they're like, "We're signing you."
Really?
Yeah, but I
Wow.
had a really bad attorney at the time who sort of misguided me on a lot of things, and there was big misunderstandings in the contract. I mean, imagine being 20 and
Right.
having a 12-page contract sitting in front of you of all these words that you've never heard before.
Yeah.
So I did turn it down, and I left the tour, and I'm on a way different path than I would have been. I don't think either way would have been a mistake. Like I think if I would have signed it, that would have been beautiful and amazing and a different outcome than now. But also, I'm not mad at where this led me either. You know.
Right. Absolutely. So, you realized at some point that the deal just wasn't for you, or like it wasn't in your favor, or what went wrong?
I didn't understand the deal, and I didn't understand the industry.
Mm,
So I didn't know really what was being offered to me. And at the time, the attorney was like, "This is not a good deal. Don't sign this. There's this, that in the contract. This isn't in your favor." And my mistake was trusting the attorney over people that I'd been working with who were like family for 2 years. Obviously you get an attorney involved for legal purposes. You have to. You need to know what you're doing. It's just sort of protocol. But I thought I had a misconception of what was being offered, and so I thought it wasn't in my favor, and so I turned it down. Now looking back, I have a completely different viewpoint of it.
Right. So you're
Yeah.
actually grateful that you didn't take that deal because it led you
No,
to
I
where
would
you
have
are
loved
today.
to take the deal. I think that it would have been great.
Okay.
I think I should have taken the deal, but it's hard to say. I mean, look, if I would have taken the deal, would I be doing what I'm doing now? No. Like, I don't know what would have happened. There's no
Mm.
way to really foresee that, but I don't think it would have been a bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any opportunities that came shortly after that that kind of took your mind away from like not taking the deal or like that situation? Like what was next after that?
I had about 7 record deals after that, but none of them were as big as that one. And so I was like, I'm just not doing this.
Wow.
I turned every single one of them down, and I've been independent ever since.
That's so I'm not too familiar with record deals. But I
Okay.
hear like in today's industry, there's a lot of artists that are signing bad deals and they're not owning their records, right? They don't own their masters, and the record labels are pretty much like controlling their career. They can't even put out new music. Some of these rap, especially in the hip hop industry, that's just what I've heard. Just from the different blogs and Instagram accounts that talk about these types of things. Like, are you seeing that as well, or what's your opinion on that?
It's always been like that. The record label has always had all the control over the artists since record labels were record labels. That's the point. They're the ones putting up the money. They should have that control. Obviously, an artist should still have some creative control and whatnot, but you have to think about it. And as any business, if you're going to go and open up an ice cream store, you're going to run the ice cream store, but someone else is going to come in and bring you the money. They're going to want to know what's going on. They're going to want to delegate certain parts of the situation. So it is common now, but it's always been common. And I think it's really up to the artist. I think that the artist needs to take responsibility for what's happening or what's not happening in their career. If you're signed to a major record label, you have an in that millions of artists don't have an into. If your stuff's not being released, there's something you're doing wrong. Why aren't you contacting the people at the label? Why aren't you persuading them? Why aren't you showing them what they want to see? Why aren't you getting your manager to light a fire up their ass? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I do see that, but it's like I don't feel bad for those people.
I got you. Do you think
Yeah.
that with social being what it is nowadays and TikTok and Instagram, do you think record labels are necessary for new artists?
Um, I don't think that you need it to make it, but at some point when you get to a certain point in your career where you're massive, you're gonna want the backing, you're gonna want the partnership. Because the truth is record labels still do run the industry, you know.
Yeah.
And you could be very big as an indie artist, of course, but I just look at them like they're the allies, you know. They've
Mm.
built the industry to be what it is. And social media is never really going to replace that, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and I love it how people are making careers for themselves, like putting like utilizing free platforms. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like you can go into the studio today, drop a record tomorrow on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and you can blow up and be like the next
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Hmm.
Like that's
Yeah.
the power of social media, and I constantly preach to people in business how important having social is because that's how you get attention.
Of
Like
course.
you
Well,
know,
for me, like the social media for me connects me to the labels. It connects me to the audience. It connects me to all those things.
right?
So it's a brilliant tool and platform, of course.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Especially now, being that we're all on lockdown, everybody's constantly on their phone. Like the numbers are
Global
going
house
through the
arrest.
roof.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
uh, so, Megan, what would you say throughout your career, like up until this point, out of everything that you've done so far, like what would you say was some of the toughest challenges that you've had to overcome and go through and work through?
Well, making the choice on the record deal was definitely one of the hardest things. But then even beyond that, I'd say that like just there's certain people that I've worked with that are very well known, that things didn't go the way that I planned them to. And I think that that's the most discouraging part, is like you work so hard to get to a certain point, and then like it becomes like it's like banished. And I think that that's the hardest part, is to continue to be persistent, because it's like you have a purpose and then it's failed, and then you have a purpose and then it fails. So you have all these failed purposes and you have to keep going in spite of all that, and say, oh, okay, well, this, like, I was booked on Coachella last year and got canceled like 3 days before the event. And I'm sitting here like, whoa, what? Like that took weeks for me to really like come back into the present time and just be like, all right, I got to get back to work. Screw Coachella. I'm going to work for something bigger. Let me try to get on Mawazine,
Yeah.
like, so it's hard seeing that, but it comes with the business, I mean, how many people, if I look at it, it's like, well, some people get discouraged at the fact that they didn't pass their SATs. I mean, man, I got canceled on Coachella. Not everyone can say that.
Yeah. Wow. That and wow. Yeah. That, I mean, for that seems like a pretty hard pill to swallow, right? I mean,
I was devastated. I was heartbroken.
yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I was like, if I'm not performing, no one's performing. And then this year, the whole thing shuts
The
down.
whole thing, you spoke it into existence. Thanks a lot. Everything's canceled.
I didn't mean to do that, but
So, are you currently working with like a booking agency that gets you these gigs? Like, how does that work? Do you book your own gigs or?
book my own stuff. I'm a hustler.
Yeah,
I
that's
am
awesome.
signed to a label. I'm non-exclusive to a label in the Middle East. They're one of the biggest labels in the Middle East. They're out of Beirut, Lebanon. Their name is Watari, and I work with a ton of producers in the deep house community in Turkey. I do a lot of top line and songwriting underground for other artists, and I work with different publishing companies. But as far as like bookings go, no, that's probably something that I'm going to start to work on now, is like creating more of a team around bookings. But I mean, I did book Coachella on my own, and I didn't need a booking agent for that. So I
Yeah,
guess it depends on what everyone can bring to the table.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I did look you up on YouTube. I checked out some of your stuff, and yeah, some really good music. Uh,
Thanks.
there's one song that has a ton of hits. It seems to be like I saw a bunch of remixes on there.
Uh,
Um,
Dripping probably has the most. It's got 3 million almost.
yeah, so the song that I was really enjoying, is it called uh, Run?
Oh, Run. Yeah, Run did well. I was thinking you were talking about Dripping. Dripping had more hits than Run did.
I gotta
Dripping
check it out.
Yeah, we hit 2 million in the first month, and then it slowed down. We've only hit like another 900,000 since then, which was last year.
Only 900,000. No big deal. No, no big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, those are some pretty impressive numbers. A lot of people loving your music, loving the content.
Yeah, I'm really lucky for that. Run did well. The label ended up aborting the release, so you can only hear it on YouTube now. But Run did really well. That was a Nico Culture remix. He's a super talented producer. I think he's from Greece. I don't know. But yeah, I've done pretty good numbers. I collaborated with a lot of people, and I've just worked hard, and I don't know, I've just really worked hard. It's not like it came overnight.
And I love that. That's what this show is all about. Because there's somebody out there listening that is a dancer or wants to be a dancer, and they're struggling right now, and they can't seem to figure it out, or they're a singer or a rapper, or they play an instrument, and they're posting content. They're just spinning their wheels, spinning their tires. And it's important for people to understand, like, this doesn't happen overnight. Like, you actually have to put your time in, put your constantly hustle. And the worst thing you can do is to quit, right? Like, you cannot quit. You can't give up. But I also I did want to ask you, when it comes to these songs, and the numbers that they do and how well they perform, do you ever find yourself getting caught up too much in the numbers?
No.
Okay.
I, I mean, it's exciting, but it's not like you sort of have to get caught up to a certain degree because unfortunately, like your dinner depends on it.
Yeah.
um, but not really. I look at numbers because I want to see the response of the people. I want to see it create an effect. I want to see that it a message that it changed someone's day or that they love it or repost that people are dancing to it, enjoying it. That's why I look at the numbers. I never look at the numbers because I'm like, oh my God, I have like 10 million views. I don't care about that. you know?
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Because like for somebody like me, who I don't have 10 million views, like
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably pass out. I'd probably faint. Like 10 million views, that's a lot of views, you know. But like, so as a content creator, and this is like me asking you like, on a personal level, like when you're creating content and you're not feeling like the content you're creating is getting the attention that you feel it deserves, or the response from the people that are hearing the content or listening or watching it, whatever it is, isn't what you thought it would be, and then you feel discouraged to create more content because you're like, well, I just put a month of my life into creating this and it only did this amount of numbers. Like, what would you say is like one of the best ways to overcome that discouragement and like keep moving forward?
Um, you have to just push harder, I think. I mean, overcoming the discouragement is ultimately a decision, right? I mean, whether or not a human being wants to admit it, they're controlling their emotions at all times of the day. So if you're discouraged, you need to find something that inspires you or reconnect with purpose or, just get out of that mood somehow, whether you're taking a walk or listening to a good piece of music or looking at someone that you are inspired by. You got to do something. And then you have to push it further because ultimately, like the numbers depend on your effort. So you have to estimate how much effort is it going to take to get this amount. I know that if I want 10 million views, I have to contact this person, that person, that person. I need this much money put aside. You have to, it's a plan. None of this happens on accident. None of
Mm.
it. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. It's always well thought out, well planned, and strategically, performed. So I think that there's cause and there's effect, and you need to be more on the side of cause rather than being affected and discouraged. You could choose to do that, or you could be like, okay, well, I didn't send out 300 emails to get this many blog posts.
Mm.
Well, did you call 500 people to get them to share your stuff? No. So why would you be discouraged? You simply didn't put in the work.
I like that. That's some fire advice right there, Megan. Bringing the heat. I love it. I love it. Right? You got to make the calls. You got to show up. You got to pretty much just put your content in other people's faces where they can't ignore it. They have to listen, right? They have to check it out.
Absolutely.
You got to
Yeah.
believe in it. I like it.
Yeah, and I think also just touching on this, like people think that it's something to do with them, like, oh, I'm not talented enough or oh, my content isn't good enough. If you look at who's making it right now, a lot of them are not, amazing. Like, let's face it, not every number one hit right now is like the best written song or the not every model is like the most gorgeous woman. It's about the work that they did. It really
Mm.
has nothing to do with the talent. The talent is like bonus, right?
Mm. I
So I
like
just
it.
wouldn't take it personal.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've heard some of the hip hop songs on the radio nowadays. I mean, I'm like, how did I'm a big hip hop fan, so I'm like,
Yeah,
how did this get on the Billboard? Like,
they hustled.
what is
They,
going on here? Like,
yeah,
I think I could have wrote that song.
yeah, you probably could
Uh,
have.
um, so Megan, I'm curious in the life of an entertainer outside of the whole COVID-19 situation. Like, what's the average day like for you?
It's not very different from quarantine. I mean, I hate to say it, like
Well, that's
I've
that's
been,
good.
yeah, I've been recording from home. Normally I would just be in the studio instead, but I just put an at-home setup and created a little studio in my house that I could work out of. But typically, I'll go to like a dance class or I'll work out. Most entertainers probably do to stay fit or do whatever they're doing. But then, obviously there's like shows, there's performances. It's summertime, like it's festival season. So like if there's festivals coming up, it's like, you wake up, you got to go to sound check, you got to eat right, you got to come back, get ready, go on stage, get off stage, enjoy your night. Um, but aside from performing, it's really not much different from quarantine because I feel like most artists work from home anyways, unless they have outsourced a studio. Um, but yeah, we're just working all day, just like an entrepreneur would from home, only we're just creating art. That's the only difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you set any goals for yourself throughout the week or throughout the month? Like, this is how many songs I need to record, or this is what I want to get done for myself. Like, how important is goal setting to you?
Not very.
Okay, I like it. I like the honesty. Yeah, no, explain. I'm curious.
Honestly, like, look, like I want to have a hit this year. That's just what I want. So, like I just look at it and I'm like, oh, I need more collaborations this week. Then 4 people will hit me up. I just have a thought about something and it literally shows up. I don't need to like sit there and be like, okay. A lot of people do. A lot of people are probably more organized about this than I am, but I just don't work like that. Like, I don't know.
You just create. You just manifest.
I have a thought about what I want and then it shows up and I do it. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, I go on to the next thing. But I never really trip about it because it's sort of like there's not like a certain destination I'm trying to get to. And I feel like even if there was, I'd get there and then it would be something else. So I'm just continually creating and evolving and expanding. And I think that as long as I'm getting more out there and bigger and doing more things every day, that's the ultimate goal.
So it's just like a day by day kind of thing, hustle. Whatever happens. Continuing to make records and collaborations.
Yeah.
Do you have any like dream artists that you think about collaborating with one day? Or?
Yeah, there's several. I mean, I, I don't know. Probably, I'd probably like to do a song with Tiesto. I'd probably like to do a song with French Montana. There's a guy in Turkey named Mahmoud Orhan. He's amazing. I'd love to do a song with him. And I think that's it. I mean, I don't necessarily have artists. Like, there's things I want to create a residency in Ibiza and Dubai. I also want to do a Vegas show, like stuff like that, and less about who I'm doing it with. I just love being on stage, so that's my objective.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I love Tiesto. I love French Montana. So fingers crossed that you make that happen. Because I'll be bumping that record all day long. And you talked about Ibiza a few times here. That's like one of my goalless dream destinations. Because I growing up, like I've always been big into the EDM scene. Like I've been to every EDC, Ultra, Fest, like, and club. Ibiza's like the motherland for dance music and clubs.
It is, man.
Yeah, Pasha out there, big club.
That's where I was working.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Yeah, I was working for Steve Aoki in 2016, and I was working his residency at Pasha Ibiza. I was running his merch.
Shit. Yeah, Steve Aoki. Is he a cool dude? Is he as cool as he appears to be on social media?
He's a genius. That guy is a low-key genius, and he doesn't really show that side of him, but he's a very smart businessman. He seems to be very scientific in his thinking and a very unique character. And obviously a lot of fun since he's throwing cake in people's faces.
I know. I know. I've been catching up with his live streams. He's pretty big into fitness right now on his live stream, so I've been tuning in. But that guy looks like he just lives the life. Like every day is just amazing.
Oh, he's great. Oh yeah, they're always on tour.
Yeah. And you also mentioned Dubai, which is another place I'd love to visit. Have you been to Dubai before?
Not yet. I planned on going last summer, and then I was supposed to go in December, and I think I'll go this summer now because it just hasn't worked out yet. So I'm hoping after the quarantine is over, I'm gonna make my way over there.
Are you afraid of heights at all?
No.
Do you think you'll go to the top of the Burj?
Yeah, but wait, do people go outside?
I don't know if you can go outside unless you have like connections, because there's like I think there's like an upper deck where they change like light bulbs or something that you can go out on, but I don't think
I
it's
don't know that I want to do
general
all that.
public.
I will go up to the top.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the light bulbs.
Yeah. No,
I'm not
that's a
like,
tall ass building right there. I don't know what it's like to be that high, honestly.
isn't it the tallest one in the world?
It is the tallest in the world. Yeah.
It's sort of freak. It's sort of freaky just to think about. Like
Like the
I did
Empire
do that
State
one.
Building. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
The one. Do you know the one in Vegas where it's like the sky
The
something?
Stratosphere.
Yes, yeah. So there is this one ride on the Stratosphere where it's like swings and it hangs off the side and you like swing over the city.
Don't
It's
tell me you
crazy.
did that. Don't
I
tell me
did
you
that.
did. You
Yeah, I
did
did.
that. Oh
Yeah,
my God, you're sick. You're,
yeah.
that's
I was
insane.
17 when I did that. I was 16 or 17 when we were in Vegas, and I did that. But now I don't think I do that now.
I've seen videos of people doing that. I'm like, that's insane.
It's nuts.
Dangling off the top of that building. Holy crap.
I wouldn't do it again.
They have the
Let it.
thing now where you can actually like bungee jump off of that building.
I considered that too, but I didn't end up doing that. But I saw that. Yeah, it's like a suspended cord. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
no, I'm good. I'm good. I'll go up in a building like the Empire State Building is 1,500 feet tall.
Oh man.
And you can go outside on it, and you're looking down. Everything just looks like a little toy, like a little
I've been
Matchbox
there.
car. Oh, you've been
Yeah,
okay.
I've
So
been
yeah,
there.
so the
It's
Burj
crazy.
Khalifa is like another 1,000 feet. Like, that's insane to
I
think about.
can't even like I can't even fathom like what
I
that
know, I know. Dubai just looks like such a cool city, though. Like, they just have so much going on there. Everything's like 5 star. It's like just looks like a beautiful
yeah,
place.
it's a luxury place and it would be nice to be in the Middle East and connect with like the roots and everything. So I'm
Yeah,
excited. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
Megan, we're in at the making of this podcast. We're 2020 now, April 2020. Where do you see yourself? Like, if you were to like snap your fingers and you're in the future, like, what do you see yourself doing? Are you still doing music? Are you still dancing?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
The future looks bright, my friend.
I like it.
Yeah, I have big things coming for me, and I'm happy about it. So, I know I'm going to be touring and pursuing music, and I'll probably be overseas. Um, and yeah, I'll still be dancing. I still dance, and the way that I look at it is, as a performer, I'm going to obviously incorporate dancing into my performances. There's always going to be rehearsals and whatnot. I may branch out and open up a dance studio somewhere down the line, like an academy,
Mm,
but I'm not sure yet. Right now, I'm just focused on the tours and getting all of that together. So
I love it. I love it.
yeah,
Well, you're super motivated, super positive, and you have a great energy. So,
you too. Thanks, Ross.
yeah, absolutely. Now, I do ask every guest on the show the same question. I want to ask you if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, it might get a little deep, but take your time. In your entire life, what is the absolute best advice that you've ever received?
Um, there's really two pieces. My dad told me when I was very young, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And my dad is self-made from nothing, a very successful man. And that was the best thing probably anyone ever told me. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. It's
Mm,
true. And I've put myself in positions where I was willing to lose everything, and I did lose everything, and I had to build myself back up again. And then another piece of advice after I had turned down the tour and I was going through a really hard time, or the record deal, the first one. I went through a really hard time, and one of the dancers was like, if you uh, go back to Michigan, because I was in LA at the time, she said, you have to be willing to change for the good. Like, you have to be willing to change inside and out as a person, because your actions are not lining up with what you want. And I went on a spiritual journey I'm still on one, for a good 4.5 to 5 years. And it's completely changed my life and my outlook on everything. And I would say I would give the same advice to someone else. Like, you have to be willing to be a completely different person, like change everything, throw away all your thoughts, all your ideas of what you think is right and what you think is the right way to do it and correct, and be willing to just have a complete 360 makeover on the mind.
Boom. I love it. And with that
Yeah.
being said, Megan, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I had a great
Yeah.
time chatting with you, and I look forward to seeing all the amazing things you're going to be doing. I will ask though, when you make it all the way to the tippy top, don't forget me. All right,
Okay.
I want tickets to the show.
Got you.
Thanks so much, Megan. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yes, you too. Ciao.